Hello and welcome to a movie review. I'm the Bulk and today we're going to be looking at Wonder Woman. The film is directed by Patty Jenkins and follows Diana, a young member of the Amazon people who inhabit the island of Themyscira. Now, from a young age, she's been trained as a warrior and told the story of the Amazon people, who were created in order to save mankind from the vengeful wrath of the god of war, Ares. Now, the peace and serenity of the island is disrupted by the arrival of Steve Trevor, a young captain of the British Intelligence Office. Now, when he arrives, he informs the Amazons of the Great War, a war to end all wars that's cost millions of lives, to which Diana believes that Ares is responsible, so sets out on a mission in order to stop it. So what's good about the film? Well, Gal Gadot as Diana is outstanding. She brings the naivety to the role that is required. She makes you believe in the role, and she also makes the character feel human. In difference to other roles, like superhero roles, she doesn't require the level of, oh, I don't want to be a hero. This is a person who genuinely wants to help. She creates believability in the character, she carries the role majestically, and she makes the action feel believable. You feel the raw power of this character. She has a chemistry with the other characters that is unmistakably authentic, and she genuinely, as a whole, carries the film. Chris Pine as Steve Trevor is also very good. He has a very good romantic relationship with Diana in the film, unlike most comic book movies, which tend to make it quite blunt. They go for a more subtle tone with it, with little moments in the film helping to build it up as a strong relationship. You feel for them. Chris Pine as a whole delivering a very good and charismatic performance. The humour with him being quite on point. He has a very good timing with that. He's a believable action star as well. When he's doing any action set pieces like fighting or gun work, you feel very understandable. He also can bring the emotion to the role that is required, which again most comic book movies tend to not have as much, but he helps to bring in the emotion that is required. Unlike most DC films, this film is very colourful. The colour is bright and stands out and has some of the best cinematography in comic books to date. Every bit is realised very well. The island of Themyscira is absolutely pungent with colour. You see the greens, the golds, the whites, all of it making it feel authentic and just lush as a movie experience. This is heavily contrasted to the scenes set in the real world setting of World War I, which are more greys and darker colours. However, this is a very good contrast, showing how the island of Themyscira is like a make-believe place full of hope and wonderment, while in the real world that is not the case. The brutality of World War I is also very well depicted, quite surprisingly so, that they go for a very authentic and realistic take for that, while not sacrificing the mystical quality of the film. The action is very well choreographed. I must admit, some of the best fight choreography I've seen in films in a long time. That's not just for when she's like fighting off a few men, something. It's also training sequences are actually visually interesting this time around. Scenes set in no man's land and in German occupied villages are also very well done. One-on-one fight sequences are very good as well, especially one later on in the movie is very well done. Though I must admit, slow-mo in fight sequences is used a bit too much, but for the most part it's alright. In terms of the plot, I feel that this film is better than most of the DC Extended Universe films in that case, because a lot of the problems with those films that a lot of critics have and a lot of fans has is that the plots for a lot of those films are either quite complicated or very choppy, but the plot here is very well structured, it's very smooth, and while it is simple, I mean, you could probably sum up the entire film in just a few sentences. The like morals and themes that it deals with are a lot heavier and come as a quite surprise again to most fans of comic book movies. There is a lot more moral weight to it. Villains are very well handled in this, I must admit. They're not only in how they are presented, but also in how they're written and how they're performed. Two of the three villains present in this film are very well structured for wartime villains, very James Bond-esque, but do come across very well. The acting for them, again, is on point, though some of the writing does make them a bit too much mustache twiddling in a sense, but they do do a fine job. They are very intimidating. The main villain, Ares, is very well realised on screen, not just in his design, but how we, in general, how he is presented to the audience. He looks spectacular. He's well acted, and also because he is a god. When it comes to presenting godlike characters, there is a problem, as in how do you present characters with that power set? But they do present the character and his power in a very unique way, especially when it comes to the climactic battle. They do present it wonderfully. Now, however, the villains also do bring us on to some of the negatives of the film, and that being that the villains do feel a tiny bit underused. While, let's say, Ares is built up throughout the film, and he definitely has a sort of presence throughout the film, he's not directly shown much throughout the film. Neither are the two wartime villains. They're not just as used as you would want them to be. However, what they have is very good, which is an improvement on other DC films in this universe, because a lot of the time a lot of people think the villains are very short-handed and not used as much, but I feel it is improved here, especially in the quality of the villains, but I just feel we still have a slight problem in the exact quantity they have in the film. The pacing can be very slow at times, especially in the middle half. It does slow a bit. However, that shouldn't really get to you, because the film needs those slower moments. It needs you to experience the angst that she has coming into our world. So I suppose in that front it is needed, but I know some people will have problems with it being a bit slow. The only other real negative I have is there's one character in particular that I found fairly annoying, and that is Steve Trevor's secretary. Now, I understand they need some comedic relief in the film. However, there a lot of the comedy in the film that breaks away from the devastating subject matter that they deal with sometimes comes from a variety of characters. You've got the squadron that they form of this Scottish man, a Native American, and I believe he's French, the other man. I'm not quite certain on that part. But they're quite funny, they're quite charismatic, but it's natural humour. You feel the natural humour from them. Again, Chris Pine is naturally funny, so is Gal Gadot in some of the sort of fish out of water scenes. But this one secretary character I just found unbelievably cringeworthy at points. She's not used a lot, thank the Lords above, but she's just, at certain points, she's just a bit grating, and I mean, it's not that big of an issue, but I just felt that with just a few touches up, she might have been a better used character, but that shouldn't really hold back your enjoyment of the film too much. Overall, the film is amazing. Again, all the positive do outweigh the small amount of negatives you have, and I do believe that the film's themes and of hope and truth and so forth do actually apply themselves to the DC universe as a whole, because I know a lot of people are worried about the films, the quality of the films at the minute, especially seeing as though a lot of people didn't like BVS that much, and some people had issues with Suicide Squad, but I believe that with this film, some fans who are still uncertain about the future of DC movies, and some critics who are uncertain of that as well, can finally have a sigh of relief and realise that this the DC films are something to look forward to and are something to appreciate. This film does set the course right for the series, and I do believe it'll have a very strong fan base with a lot of people, not just guys, girls as well. The film doesn't smack you over the head with feminism, as you would think to, and overall is a very, very enjoyable experience. I absolutely loved it, and for that reason I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. So, thank you for watching. If you like what you see, please give that like and subscribe button down there a little tickle, and I'll be seeing you next time. Goodbye.